Good morning, Dr. Mashanum Osman. I'm Wei Ming, and now I'm going to present to you my title for the assignment 1 of course BIP 2213 Software Engineering. My title is Principle of Software Engineering. I'm from the class BITS Group 1. There are a total of several major principles that are the rule of thumb for software engineering, which are separation of concern, modularity, abstraction, anticipation of change, generality, incrementality, and consistency. From now on, for the listening experience, I will switch off my camera and present my slides. Let's start with the first principle, which is separation of concerns. For smaller projects, it's easier and possible to tackle all the problems at once, but not for complex projects. This is because complex project or program consists of complex algorithm. It is impossible to deal with all the aspects simultaneously. It's just ridiculous. So in order to dominate the complexity, we can separate the tasks into groups and conquer them in sequence. The complexity can basically split into two groups, which are basic functionality and data integrity. We could also distribute the job based on the requirement specification of the client or the project itself, such as based on the runtime of the program or system, or based on the qualities of the program. This can help us to use time efficiently and won't confuse ourselves with the problem from all aspects. The second principle is modularity. Modularity can be known as the specialization of the separation of concern, which is the first principle. This principle is to separate software into components according to the functionality and responsibility. There are three main points that we need to remember when we carry out these principles, which are decomposability, composability, and ease of understanding. For the first point, decomposability, which means to break the system into smaller, understandable pieces called modules. The second point is composability, which means to construct the system from smaller pieces, then reuse and maintain it. The last point is ease of understanding. Remember to make the system can be understandable easier for any future modification. The third principle is abstraction. This principle is to identify the important aspects of the system or program and ignore the details. In order to identify the important aspects, it required to looking at the system from different perspectives or just different points of view in general. The fourth principle is the anticipation of change. This is because system evolution is unavoidable to keep perfecting and updating the system. To achieve the fourth principle, it's important to remember these 4 points. Maintains the principle of modularization and separation of concerns. Make sure all the pieces is easy to change. This is to make sure that any changes that is needed to make can be more easily done as the system had been split into pieces. Always prepare for the rapid changing market. Always prepare to perfect oneself for the rapid changing technology. This is the points for the person as there are needs to prepare and adapt the fast changing pace of the technological field. The fifth principle is generality. For this principle, attempt to find a more general solution for every problem. This is because a general problem is easier to solve than special case, and the general solution for the problem may be reused for other cases. The sixth principle is incrementality. This principle is to proceed the process with a step-by-step fashion. When useful subset of an application is identified, can try to add into the application by small increments rather than all of the subset at once. Besides that, during prototyping or verification, add the update incrementally before turning it into a product. This is because when there are any error detected in the program or prototype, it can be isolated easily and correct easily. The seventh and final principle is consistency. When developing a system or tackling the problem, Try to use a similar and consistent method. It is because when we work in a large crowd, it's easier to do things in a familiar context and allow the reading process of the system easier. As the programs are mostly in a similar fashion, the programmer has more free mind to deal with more important and harder issues. These are slides designed by me with all the 7 principles of software principles. And that's all from me. Thank you.